So today we're going to talk about The Sound and the Fury by the American writer William Faulkner. The Sound and the Fury was originally published in 1929 and it is William Faulkner's fourth novel. William Faulkner is considered not only one of the best writers of the 20th century, but also one of its most influential authors. And of course, as you probably know, he won the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1949 for, and I quote, his powerful and artistically unique contribution to the modern American novel. Okay, William Faulkner was born in 1897 and died in 1962 at the age of 64. He was from New Albany in Mississippi, so he was a Southern American writer. And this is key because he wrote about the American South and draw from his own personal observations on that region. Faulkner's literary universe reflects the South he knew, the South he lived at all his life. Practically, he created a fictional county in Mississippi which he named Yoknapatawpha County based on the real-life Lafayette County, which was the place where he spent most of his life. Faulkner set many of his novels and short stories there, and he even created a map and even a census of the fictional county. So now you can go online, I mean not right now after you watch this video, and see where each of his novels and stories were supposed to be set according to the map he created. Now in The Sound and the Fury, Faulkner focuses on the decadent Southern aristocracy and some of its members. In this case, a particular family, the Compsons. Now this aristocracy had its glory days during slavery, but after the American Civil War and the abolition of slavery that followed in the southern states, this former aristocratic class saw its financial situation become gradually less favorable. The other two social classes that we have in The Sound and the Fury, and indeed in some of his other novels, are the former slaves, who, despite their newly gained freedom, continue to work for former aristocratic families like the Compsons, and the other social class is the poor white laborers. Now, The Sound and the Fury can be a difficult book to read because of its structure, and because the way the plot unfolds is quite complex and fragmentary. It is normal for readers to be confused the first time they read the novel. At least that was the case with me. So let me tell you about the structure and about the novel without any spoilers, of course. I am just going to talk about the structure as a way to help you find your feet when you pick up this novel, whether for the first time or for a reread, because it doesn't really get much easier when you read it for the second or the third time. So the narrative in The Sound of Fury is divided into 4 parts. Each of those parts has a different narrator. So there are 4 narrators that you would need to keep up with. So that's part of the difficulty. But if you think 4 narrators are a lot, in his later novel, As I Lay Dying, there are 15 different narrators. So maybe 4 narrators is not that many after all. Now, 3 out of those 4 narrators in The Sound and the Fury are also characters in the story. So they get their chance to tell things as they see them. But there are other characters that do not have their own voice within the novel. So these other characters are always mediated by somebody else. And this is also key. An example of this is a character called Caddy. She is a character that we only hear about from what others have to say about her, but we never hear from her directly. She's always mediated by somebody else in her family in this case. So Faulkner inaugurated this way of narrating in his fiction with The Sound and Fury, and then explored it further in later novels and short stories, for instance in As I Lay Dying, like I just mentioned a moment ago. I think that the importance of The Sound of the Fury The Sound and the Fury, comes from the fact that it is the first modern novel in American literature. This novel is unlike anything that had been written before in the United States. But for us, that also makes it difficult, right? That's also something that makes it difficult to read. I do not want to put you off reading The Sound and the Fury, far from it. I actually would like to encourage as many people as possible to pick it up after watching this video. You know, that's always one of the modest goals for my book reviews here on YouTube. I always try to encourage people to read. But I also don't want to lie to people watching this video. I don't want to underplay how difficult The Sound and the Fury is. We are talking here about James Joyce's level of difficulty. So if you haven't read Faulkner yet, but you have read or tried to read books like Finnegan's Wake or Ulysses by James Joyce, then you will know what I'm talking about, right? One thing that both the Irish writer James Joyce and the Southern American writer William Faulkner have in common is that they both created very specific local literary universes. Dublin, in Joyce's case, and Yoknapatawpha County in Faulkner's case. But I think more important than that, both writers were innovators. And as such, they created something that later writers have tried to imitate. So Faulkner, for instance, is hugely influential in Latin American literature. Not only, but he's particularly influential in Latin American literature. So whether they acknowledge it or not, many Latin American novelists of the 1960s, 70s, and even later owe a big debt to William Faulkner. So if you're into contemporary Latin American literature, I think you need to read Faulkner. Faulkner's main innovations have to do with the use of stream of consciousness. And as you know, that's a narrative technique through which readers are privy to the mental flow of ideas and thoughts in a character's mind, right? So you get into the character's thought as he or she is thinking. That can be quite confusing. Faulkner also uses monologue in prose fiction. That's quite unique. Monologue is often used in theater, but not so much in prose fiction. And also he revises myth. Particularly, the Bible is a key literary source in the work of Faulkner. Also the work of Shakespeare, of course, if you caught the title, The Sound and the Fury. So the work of Shakespeare is a key influence. So the title of the novel, The Sound and the Fury, is a direct quote from Macbeth, the tragedy by Shakespeare, as you know. So the quote is, "It," meaning life, "it is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing." Okay, so that's a quote from Macbeth, and that's where the phrase sound and fury, which is the title of this novel, comes from. But the title is not the only Shakespearean influence in this novel. The whole book actually permeates references to Macbeth specifically. So if you want to read The Sound and the Fury, I suggest read Macbeth first or watch a production of it, and then read The Sound and the Fury. You'll get the references. Now, let's see if I can explain what makes The Sound and the Fury difficult, and that way kind of help you find the key to it, so you can manage to make your way through it without much frustration, without feeling completely lost or like you are losing your mind, which can happen, okay? So one thing that you need to know is that thankfully, you don't need to be a genius to read The Sound and the Fury, otherwise I couldn't have read it, right? I think as long as you understand what Faulkner is trying to do, or was trying to do in this novel, and you take your time to read The Sound and the Fury, it's a relatively short book, don't race through it. Take your time. So as long as you do those two things, I think you can be successful. Now, in The Sound and the Fury, the same episodes are related over and over again by the different narrators. Each narrator not only provides his unique point of view, but also adds something new to the narrative. So it is up to you, to the reader. It's up to us to trust that what we are being told is true or not. So are we supposed to trust all the narrators, everything they tell us? That's up to us to make up. So another difficulty is that there is no linear structure in this novel. The events are not told in chronological order at all. So The Sound and the Fury is a novel that you need to read very closely. Take your time, pay a lot of attention to every word. Okay, now let's go into each of the 4 parts. So part 1 is narrated by Benjamin Compson. This character is known as Benji by his family. He's an adult character, right? But his mental capacity is that of a young child. So he's the personification of that idiot from the Macbeth quote from which the title of the novel is derived and which I quoted just a moment ago. I would say that this first part 1 in The Sound and the Fury, is the most confusing and disorienting part out of the 4 parts that make up the novel, right? I think that's the most confusing part for the reader. We are first introduced to episodes in this part 1 that will be revisited by other narrators but here we get them from the point of view of someone who is not capable of making sense of them. This character Benji is not capable of making sense of the events he's telling us, right? So that makes it extra confusing because he doesn't know really what he's talking about means. Now, the first part is stream of consciousness. So we're in Benji's head, and all the events narrated are presented in a non-chronological order because they just come up in Benji's mind, and they don't come up in chronological order, obviously. Then part 2 is told by Benji's brother Quentin. Now, you might find some relief here because Quentin happens to be the most intelligent member of the Compson family. So there is quite a contrast between part 1 and part 2 because of the level of intelligence of both narrators. So although not everything is narrated in the second part in chronological order, again, we're not presented with neatly chronological events, at least Quentin presents everything a lot more clearly than his brother does in part 1. So there's already some kind of relief here. Things seem to be getting a little bit easier in part 2, but not quite. Now, the difficulty of this second part, actually, I think, comes from the harshness of some of the episodes described. But of course, I'm not going to get into what those episodes are because I don't want to spoil this novel for everyone. You know, if you watch my channel, my reviews don't have spoilers. I don't want to spoil the plot for anyone who has not read this novel yet or any of the other novels that I talk about here. So, okay, let's move on to part 3. Then part 3 is told by yet another Compson brother, in this case, Jason. Okay, and what do you need to know about this part? Is the easiest, the most straightforward section of all of them. Part 3, okay? Part 3 is the easiest. So why? Mostly because part 3 is narrated linearly, finally, at last. So I would say that it's the most conventional section of the book. The problem with part 3, the difficulty in part 3, or not the difficulty with part 3, but the problem by the time you get to part 3, if you do, is that you might be tempted to quit reading before you get to that. So I'm encouraging you to make it to part 3. It gets easier from there on. So if you manage to make it as far as part 3, you will be rewarded. And a lot of what was confusing before in the narrative in parts 1 and 2 will become clearer here in part 3. So the important thing, if you want to read this book, is that you don't give up in part 1, which is the hardest of them all. Then it gets gradually easier, and by part 3, you're done. So if you make it to part 3, I think you will finish the novel. Now, the final part, part 4, is the only one that is not a first-person narrator. So the narrator here is a third-person omniscient narrator, Faulkner himself, if you like. But this part focuses on one specific character, Dilsey. Dilsey is not a member of the family. She's a servant who, in a way, is the one responsible for keeping the Compson family together. So this is fascinating because in part 4, we get an outsider's perspective on the Compsons, just to round off the narrative. So the narrative that tells the story of this decadent, former, aristocratic, southern family comes from someone who knows them quite intimately, but is not herself part of the family. So who is Dilsey? Dilsey is the most compassionate character in The Sound and the Fury. So if the white aristocratic family, the Consons, in this novel, I think it's very clear that they represent the past, they represent the Southern past, you know, slavery, all of that. The black character, the one black character that we zoom in on, Dilsey, she represents the future of the South. She represents the potential, the newly released potential. So the book ends on a kind of positive note, okay? Now, in 1945, Faulkner wrote an appendix to this book, which is included in many editions now. So the edition that you'll probably have will include this appendix, but make sure that you read the appendix, okay? So what happens in this appendix? In this appendix, Faulkner clarifies some of the most obscure elements of The Sound and the Fury. And the appendix also includes the history of the whole Compson family lineage. Now, because The Sound and the Fury tells the end of that lineage, and that's really not a spoiler, I don't think, in the appendix, Faulkner goes back all the way. He goes all the way back to the 18th century to explain how the Compson lineage began in America, right? And then he goes on and he ends the appendix in 1945. So in this appendix, he reveals the fate of the characters who are still alive at the end of part 4, and I won't tell you who that is because, again, I'm not going to spoil it for you. So in the 4 parts of the first few editions, you don't know what happens later. In the editions from 1945, there's this, and after there's this appendix who tells you that. So I strongly suggest that you read that appendix after you've read the book, mostly because it adds context and because it clarifies a lot of what makes the original 4 parts, particularly, as I say, the first 2, so difficult to follow. So you soldier on, struggle. You're going to struggle with this book. That's normal. It happens to everyone. You'll make more and more sense. Then you read the appendix and you'll get it, right? It's up to you now, okay? I don't think I could help you anymore to read this book. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below, whether you have read The Sound of Fury, tried to read it, have read it, will read it after watching this review. My name is Juan. That's all from me. I hope you're all doing very well and staying safe. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you again very, very soon for another book review. Bye for now.